Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That was the first time I did them in order. To everybody, welcome to the still unnamed. I mean, Ian Zev's life was sort of like a working title, and I'm trying to figure out like a more creative title. So if anyone's got any ideas, if I go with your idea to make it the permanent title, there may be a Lincoln in there for you. Not a paper Lincoln, a copper Lincoln. Think about it. Just think about it. As always, if you're going through something in life, you're never alone. Dial 988. That is the mental health / suicide prevention. I always feel weird saying that. I need to word it better because it's not a mental health prevention hotline. It's a suicide prevention hotline to help people who are going through mental health issues. There we go. That's how I should word it. Call them. Turn this off and call them because you are vastly more important than this. As you can see, I'm back running again. I was sick for some time. Had a little COVID again, and I was asymptomatic for the longest time, and then just I couldn't move. But I'm feeling better now, so that's good. Yeah, I deserve a green jacket. Where's Tiger? Or Shooter? No, not Shooter. He's the bad guy in that movie. Or Happy. Whatever. So, come in a DeLorean with me. Let's hop in. Let's hop in together. And we're gonna put in the numbers. What day do we want to visit? I'm thinking August, because I like the heat. Actually, I really don't. I prefer cold. But for the sake of the story, I'm gonna say I do. August, I like the heat. August, 9th. Something happened to have happened on August 9th. Oh, you know what? We're going to go back 2 days earlier then. I'm thinking August 7th to lead us into August 9th. So let's go to August 7th. Where do we want to go? I haven't visited D.C. in way too long, and I love Washington, D.C., loved last time I was there. I don't know if it would have that same feeling it gave me anymore. So I'm going to stop with this stupid joke, and I'm going to tell you why I'm bringing up these dates. So we're going to go to August 7th, 1974, where then embattled President Richard Nixon, in the middle of the Watergate scandal, went to the Hill to garner up Republican support because there had already been an impeachment inquiry brought to the table. So the leaders at that point in Congress were Senator Barry Goldwater from Arizona, who was the previous Republican nominee in 1972. And the House Minority Leader was a man named John Rhodes. Shares a name with someone who I went to law school with. What's up, Dwight? The U.S. Senate Minority Leader, Hugh Scott. So we had Goldwater, whose position was, I think he was President pro tempore of the Senate at that point. Staunch Republican. House Minority Leader John Rhodes, who I don't know that much about other than hard-fast Republican. And he was the House Minority Leader, and the U.S. Senate Minority Leader was Hugh Scott. It was a Republican-controlled everything at that point, except for the Speaker of the House. But that's another story, which I'll tell at another time, because that guy was this close to becoming president, and no one knows his name. I don't even know it off the top of my head. I just know I've studied it. So I'll tell you next time. They sat the embattled president down, who, keep in mind, was embroiled in one scandal. Uno scandillo. Based on the break-in at Watergate, which Obviously, a crime is a big deal, but it was the cover-up that was really getting him. So he went to the Hill to garner support, and Goldwater looked at him and said, "Mr. President, you do not have the support of this body, and you especially do not have the support of me." These were the top 3 Republicans in Congress telling the Republican president, who was involved in one scandal, that it was time to go. 48 hours later, Nixon goes on live TV and tenders his resignation. 24 hours after that, Gerald Ford becomes the 37th president of the United States. Why do I bring this up? I'm not a Republican. Don't claim to be. I like certain Republicans. I'm not I don't consider myself to be closed-minded, but I'm a moderate, I'm an old school liberal dude. I'm not far left, but I'm much further left than I am right. Okay? But that was integrity back then. When Goldwater, Hugh Rhodes, and Scott put country over party and said, "It's time to go, Mr. President." And keep in mind, it was not politically advantageous for the Republican Party to be subject to the second impeachment in the history of this country, which at that point it would have been, Andrew Johnson being the first. The men, they served with dignity at that point. Did they have some side hustles here and there, of course, but they were more dignified than they weren't dignified. I'll leave it at that. That's not what I'm seeing today in today's MAGA party. I'm not even going to call them the Republican Party anymore, because the term Republican Party makes me think of like the old Lincoln. And I think certain people deserve that title. Like the late Colin Powell, Mitt Romney, John McCain, all these people who fought for conservative values, of which I disagree with. I'm a liberal guy, but I respect it. Like John McCain's concession speech during the 2008 election is still one of the more inspiring speeches I've ever heard, even more so than Obama's that night. But, and yes, I voted for Obama, of course. But this, when they say this isn't your grandfather's Republican Party, well, this isn't my grandfather's Republican Party. Because my grandfather was a Nixon dude. I don't think he could end up voting for Reagan later on due to some, clink mistakes, but it happens. Reagan still won by a landslide. So before I go into what's been going on, a lot of people have been asking, I've been getting some texts, and I just want to say, just get a news station. But then I'm like, wait, then there's no way I can get big. Don't want to bite off my nose to spite my face. If someone can be president from jail or prison, well, first, let me say, I do not think Trump is going to prison. I don't. On any other planet, he should. If the world was right and just and fair, he'd be going to prison. But it's not. And you know what? I'm still torn. I just don't know if I like the look of a former president going to prison. But there has to be a drawing line somewhere, because Trump did make that. I could, I could unalive someone on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose a single vote. I thought that was hysterical when he said it. Now I don't think it's so hysterical. Now I think it may be somewhat accurate. Either way. Okay. Can he be president from prison? I don't know. But what I do know is that he can run for president from prison, because there's precedent. Who ran for president from prison? Happy you asked. Eugene V. Debbs ran as a socialist American quite a few times. He ran in 1904, 1908, 1912. No, God, this better not become another Trump this way. 1916 and 1920. He probably would have died. I just gave it away. He probably would have run in 1924 if he didn't die in the interim. The last time he ran was from prison for violating the 1920 Sedition Act, which was a ghost law which had been overturned that John Adams had put into law long ago, which, due to the fact that it was wartime, although we weren't technically in World War I when he was arrested, leave it at that, although it was reinstated because Woodrow Wilson said it's going to be reinstated. Didn't like Debbs, get him out of the way. No jury, no judge, just off you go. And he ran for president. And would you believe it? Maybe he got 10, 20 votes. His mom voted for him or something. No. He got 191,000 votes. 3.4% of the electorate, which to this day is the highest percentage of any Socialist Party candidate running for president. To this day. And he ran from prison. Obviously, he couldn't travel around, so it was really a surrogacy campaign. A lot of people felt very strongly about him, and on their own dime, just went from city to city to city. And you know what? He didn't win, obviously, but I'd say 3.4% as a socialist going into World War I. It's nothing to laugh at, you know? Keep in mind also that the election he ran in was the same one where on all state ballots was the issue of women's suffrage. So women didn't vote in that election because the country was still in the process of giving women the right to vote. We were slow on some stuff. Still, almost 1 million votes. I'm impressed. However, he did say he would pardon himself if elected, which then brings up the whole thing. When Trump wins, because everyone has to say when, and I'm going to say if, although I very much do not think he's going to win. 99.95% sure he's not going to win. And I know that goes against everything everyone's saying, but okay. Could he pardon himself? Yes and no. Yeah, I'm good at those little twists there. Currently, there are 4 courts of jurisdiction not 4. He's in front of right now. One, he was just found guilty and he is a convicted felon. He could not pardon himself there because that is a state trial, which uses state law, of which the president does not have authority over. The governor, Kathy Hochul, did I pronounce that right? I don't know, is the only one with the authority to pardon somebody convicted of a New York State crime. So, no, even if he wins, he cannot pardon himself for this one. He also could not pardon himself for, I believe it was, the insurrection was federal. God, it's so bad that I can't keep up with all the times the president gets arrested. He also would not be able to pardon himself on the Georgia one. Yeah, when he asked for 11,000 votes and tried to, sway the election so it wasn't free and fair and America stopped being America at that time. Yeah. So that that was also a state case, which we don't know what's going to happen right now because Fani Willis, I'll leave it at that, Like, you're prosecuting Donald Trump. Just don't do anything stupid, especially hiring someone and sleeping with them and giving them a raise. Sorry. Not a big fan of Fani Willis because I would dream to be at the point in my career which she is. And for her to just, for like a one-night stand, mess up. Sorry, some things I just don't get. I fought very hard for things, as has she. I just don't understand giving it up that easy. And by giving it up, I don't mean that in a physical context. I mean putting it at risk, putting her profession at risk. I don't want there to be any implication that I'm shaming anyone. I'm shaming the fact that she decided to be intimate with a subordinate during the most high-profile case going on. That's what I'm shaming, not the actual act itself. So, calm down. So, no, those two he couldn't pardon himself. The documents case and the insurrection case, if he were to become president again, although it's not spelled out in the Constitution, I believe he could pardon himself. And I have a basis for believing this. Because I don't just say random stuff. I like to have a basis. The Constitution put limitations on pardon power. Well, what limitations are those? Happy you asked. The ones I said before. The president can't pardon somebody convicted of a state crime, just like a governor can't pardon somebody convicted of a federal crime. All that being said, the founders put limitations on pardon power. So if they wanted to prevent the president from being able to pardon him or herself, I'm pretty sure they all thought him, to be honest. All those, guys back in the 1700s wearing wigs, So they put a restriction on the pardon power, but they didn't put this restriction on it. And just by deductive reasoning and evidence, my conclusion is that if asked, well, I hate it when people say this, but I would say, if the founders were around today, they would die of a heart attack immediately by the first airplane they saw. But once they came back to life again, they would say, yeah, presidents can pardon themselves. Okay, it is Republican time. Republican time. So, we're about 36 hours post 34 guilty verdicts. And let's see how the Republican Party's taking it. I'm sure they're taking it just fine, the same way that Goldwater, Rhodes, and Scott took it in 74. Definitely putting country above party. I joke, of course. They're acting absolutely insane. And that's why I'm really just trying to call them the MAGA Party. Because I don't want to disrespect, true Republicans who I disagree with, but I believe has their heart in a good place. I'll be honest, and don't tell anyone this. When they all showed up to court that one day wearing the Trump tie, I kind of thought it was a little funny. And I'd still think it was funny if it was a one-off. But now, it's not funny. Now, what really I worry about the future of this country, even when Biden wins re-election. So, Jim Jordan has subpoenaed Alvin Bragg to speak in front of the weaponization of the DOJ committee. Now, if you've never heard of the weaponization of the DOJ committee, it's because it's not a real thing. Jim Jordan just sort of created it today. Sounded good. And subpoenaed Alvin Bragg. I wouldn't go if I was Alvin Bragg. We have specific division of government. Executive, legislative, judicial. while there is an amount of overlap, they are supposed to be equal branches of government. Alvin Bragg did his job as a prosecutor. Was it politically motivated? Of course. But everything's politically motivated. You ever notice if the big talk of the town is like drugs are out of control, the amount of drug prosecutions will go up? Because that's what people are talking about. Because not everyone who gets arrested gets tried. Vast majority don't. So of course it's political. But so is every prosecution. That doesn't make him innocent. That doesn't make it so he's not guilty. And the fact, if you take the facts and you apply them to the law, he's guilty. So what? And on top of that, Alvin Bragg sought counsel from the New York Ethics Committee, my good friends, and to see if this fact pattern was justified in bringing about an indictment. And then, okay, so Alvin Bragg should not go to this. I would not set that principle, but there's just a little bit of icing on the cake that makes it so much sweeter. Jim Jordan is currently in contempt for ignoring a subpoena based on January 6th. So the head of the DOJ is actively violating a legal subpoena and is subpoenaing a district attorney. What planet are we on, people? What planet are we on? Let's move to my favorite guy with the most boring name possible, Mike Johnson. Oh, hold on. No, I don't know if you can see me or not. There we go. This guy was kind of growing on me. I mean, obviously I disagree with everything he says, but I don't know. I like that porn app with his son. At least it gave me good, fun entertainment at night to watch. I mean, I knew the man was wackier than a loon, but I didn't really hate him that much. Hint, I didn't really hate McCarthy that much. Hint, I didn't really hate Ryan that much. Okay, Hastert, and before that, yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. And but keep in mind, I don't agree with anything that and Gingrich, big time not a fan. But the other ones I just sort of thought were like, I disagreed with them, but I thought they were men of principle. Because I have the ability to believe that there are people can believe the opposite of what I believe and still be people of principle. And I thought that was Mike Johnson. I really did. I'm like, yes, someone of principle who I can make fun of. Awesome. And I'm sure he could take it. He looks like he got made fun of a little bit in school. Has sort of like a Kavanaugh thing about him. But today, he's no longer just the tail end of a joke. Today, he has become a danger to our government. Again, let me see if I can find you what he said today. Because I like to go right to the source. I don't like to just, I don't like to say, well, he said, no, let's see what he said. And by that I mean paraphrase. Mike Johnson, quote on Trump conviction. Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is a doozy. You ever seen Groundhog Day where Chris Elliott is talking about a blizzard and said, it's going to be a doozy? Well, this is going to be a doozy. Okay, I am reading this off of CNN, Politics, Live News, Hush Money, and don't come at me and say, it's CNN. No, it's a quote. CNN is not going to misquote somebody. They're not. I wouldn't even accuse Fox News of purposefully misquoting somebody because that's libelous. House Speaker Mike Johnson called the guilty verdict against former President Donald Trump a shameful day in American history. Future President Ian sees it as one of the better days in American history, proving that our system works. Johnson also accused the justice system of being weaponized and described the trial as a purely political exercise, not a legal one. Then he probably wouldn't have gotten convicted. Probably wouldn't have, because, the jury, they were given the facts and the law and they made the decision. This was not a political jury. This was a legal jury. Some reason, I just don't understand, okay? The Speaker, undermining the legal process, also calls the case a purely political exercise, not a legal one. Yeah, I just read that. The American people see this as lawfare, and they know it is wrong and dangerous. President Trump will rightfully appeal this absurd verdict, and he will win. Okay, that last part I don't have much of an issue with, that is what's going to happen, other than hopefully not that last part, but Trump will definitely appeal, as is his right, and hopefully he loses because he's incredibly guilty. But Mike Johnson should have just kept his mouth shut. People don't understand when you say the DOJ is being weaponized. Those words are powerful. That's like Hitler stuff, weaponizing the DOJ. And the DOJ is not weaponized because if it was, they would have somebody with a sack who's not named Merrick Garland in charge of it, who's been one of the worst attorney generals that I can remember. I mean, I don't know what he was doing, why he sat on these for so long. But now we're going into election season, and that's my assumption that he was waiting until election season, but that's not the right thing to do. So I'm not a fan of Merrick Garland, but that doesn't make this verdict not correct. 34-0. Not 33-1. There wasn't any that maybe it's a little doubt. No. 34 beyond a reasonable doubt. Mike Johnson should have come out and said, while I personally disagree with the verdict, this is how America works. The former president has the right to appeal. I'm sure he will take up that opportunity, and we will have to see how everything ends up. That's what a statesman would say. Nothing in a lot of words. But instead, the weaponization of the DOJ. Like, you just don't say that. Like, I mean, if I was one of those people who thought we're going to have a civil war, I'd say that. But no. Trump then came out and said, I'm a political prisoner. Okay, let's talk about this one for a second. Let's just sparse this. Both those words, political, prisoner. Let's start with political. Political means you were thrown in jail by your opponent without due process of law. In order for this guilty verdict to be reached, there was a grand jury impaneled. There was a trial. Trump had the ability to call witnesses on his behalf. He had the ability to put up a defense of his choice. He had the ability to take the stand in his own defense if he wanted to. That sounds like the legal process working out the way it should. Not like a banana republic, I don't like the guy in charge, throw him in jail. No. Next one. Prisoner. Go to Rikers Island and tell me how it goes over when you tell them all that Mar-a-Lago is prison. I'm just curious how they would react to that. So if anyone wants to take up that challenge, I'd be curious. Go to Rikers and just walk around the prisoners and say, hey, do you think Mar-a-Lago, maybe even have some photos? I won't do it. I'm scared of that. No. Safety first here. But you can do it. And just, see if any of them agree that, Mar-a-Lago and Rutgers look just about the same, so Trump is a prisoner. It's a ludicrous statement, is what I'm trying to say. It's so dumb. as I said yesterday, I don't think the defense even did that. No, the prosecution, excuse me. I don't even think they did that great of a job. That's how ironclad case this was. Why Stormy Daniels was on the stand, I have no idea. Because this was not a Me Too case. The case was not about sex. The case was about the misappropriation of funds. Not as sexy, but that's what it was about. There was no accusation that it was not consensual. She did say, she felt a little weird, but there's no way he could have known that. So he wasn't on trial for a sexually related crime. It was a white-collar crime, which he was incredibly guilty of. Did he have sex with Stormy Daniels? It doesn't matter. I don't care. But yeah, probably. I actually think Stormy hurt the case. Now, there are a lot of bad guys here in this whole thing. More bad guys than good guys, that's for sure. And here's a list of people I feel bad for who really didn't do anything wrong. And then there's someone who did do something wrong who I'm empathetic towards. I am sympathetic to all the Trump grandchildren. That's got to be awful. The two younger Trump children, because the older three have decided to put themselves in the public circle. Once you decide to put yourself in the public circle, you can't get upset when you get insulted. The younger two, definitely the youngest, don't seem to have made that decision, yet they're dragged into it anyway. So I do feel bad for them. I feel bad for any fear Stormy had to go through. I really feel bad for the jurors in this case who were just honoring their civic duty and have been getting death threats. I think some of them have already been doxxed. I'm not looking into that. I don't want to know. But they were doing their civic duty. And even had the verdict been not guilty, I would commend them just the same. But there's one person who's not a great guy, but I personally identify with. And who's that? 3, 2, 1. Michael Cohen. What? Michael Cohen's a scumbag. Yeah, he definitely is. Michael Cohen's just trying to profit off this. Yeah, he is. Michael Cohen's out for revenge. Yeah, he is. Michael Cohen had to go to prison in solitary. Yeah, he did. So why would I feel bad for Michael Cohen? Because I can identify and I can have compassion towards getting drawn into something based on wanting to feel a certain way about yourself and then not knowing how to get out. I believe Michael Cohen was drawn into the Trump universe out of a desire to be loved and be famous, and had no problem putting his morals to the side in that effort. He loved going to the Playboy Mansion. He loved, smoking cigars around Trump and just what the nightlife brought him. I'm sure he did plenty of that. And he fell in love with the lifestyle that Trump gave him. And he knew what was going on was wrong. He's admitted to it as such. Now, in my own life, I've fallen victim, on a much smaller scale, of course, to popular people, to people who I thought I want to be part of their lifestyle. 3 employers ago of mine was part of the 12-step fellowship I belonged to, and he was like the man in the fellowship. However, he was running a law firm like garbage. Obviously not anything like, Michael Cohen levels, but he shouldn't have been doing a lot of the stuff he was doing. And I don't believe he's barred anymore, so I can say that. But there was definitely times I knew he wasn't doing what should be done and looked the other way. I never actively did dirt for him, but I definitely ignored dirt, and I still feel guilty about that today. But I felt like I fell into the lifestyle that was given to me with that job. And the only reason I took that job in the first place was because I was scared that due to my past, I would be unhireable. So I took $500 a week, although I was promised $600 a week, to really run a firm, and was quite taken advantage of. But he brought a lifestyle with him, because in the rooms of that 12-step fellowship, he was God. I wanted to be that. I wanted to be what he was, and I didn't care how I was going to get there. And it's taken me a lot of growth, a lot of analyzing, a lot of thinking. I'm not going to say prayer, I'm an atheist, but meditating on why I allowed that to get as far as it did. And it was because I wanted to be accepted. It was a lack of self-acceptance. And I feel that's what happened with Michael Cohen. Again, he let it go much further than I did, but I'm identifying with the feelings, not the facts. Like, if a multi-billionaire loses $5, no big deal. If somebody who's worth $5,000, that's all the money they have, loses $5, it's going to sting a lot more than the billionaire, although it's the same amount. So I just wanted to share that, and I want to give you a little insight into me. The Scott Peters, it's coming, I promise. I've been so lazy. I actually have this whole thing written out. I haven't looked at it for a while. There hasn't been much movement on it, but I'm getting to it. And now I have a request. I want you guys to know me. You hear me talk, you know certain things about me, but I would like to be interviewed here. I just don't know who should do it. I don't know if I should choose a relative, if I should ask a friend, if I should ask a complete stranger, if I should ask someone who's watching it. What kind of person should I ask to interview me? And here are the rules are going to be. No holds barred. Ask me whatever you want. The only thing I will not do is bring harm to another person in my answer. So when it comes to me, I'll answer anything. But if I know something that could hurt someone else, most of the time I will refuse to answer the question. A few times you may be able to get a little something out of me. But so if you're interested, you know somebody who may be interested, or just have an idea of what type of person should be, because it's not like I'm going to give them a list of questions or anything. They're going to have free reign. I would do it as a live, but I only have like 68 people, and that could get embarrassing. And I don't like being embarrassed. On that note, I love you all. See, I've become one of those I love you all people. 38 minutes and 27 seconds. Bye.